And I'm Danny Giddings. Your co-host this morning is Andrew Work. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Danny.
On today's penultimate Backchat before our summer break, we'll be looking at the controversy over the role of the police in Hong Kong's current turmoil. Many have accused the police of repeatedly using unnecessary force, most recently in Sunday night's clearance of protesters in Mong Kok, and photos circulating on social media, especially of one riot officer in a T-shirt angrily denying he's used his warrant card, have only fueled accusations of police misconduct. But there are also reports that morale within the police force is at rock bottom, with many frontline officers reportedly furious they've been prevented from taking tougher action against protesters, who seem to be able to break the law of impunity. Police anger at their personal details and even phone numbers being revealed by protesters bubbled over into a raid early yesterday morning by officers in riot gear on an underpass in Tai Po. So have recent events deepened distrust between the police and a significant section of the Hong Kong public? How serious is the problem and what's the solution? And is it time to re-examine the role of the police, who some perceive as being brought in to help the government resolve an essentially political dispute? Let us know your thoughts. You can email us at backchat@rthk.hk. That's backchat@rthk.hk. You can leave a message on our Facebook page, Backchat on RTHK Radio Free, or give us a call. The number there, 233 88266. That's 233 88266. As I mentioned in the introduction there, Backchat was originally meant to go off the air last week. Backchat has been extended through this week, but today and tomorrow's Backchats are the last Backchats of this season. RTHK will be monitoring the situation, and of course, if there are further events, you may see Backchats specials during the summer, or indeed Backchat could resume earlier than its scheduled resuming starting date in early September. But in the meantime, please do get those emails in. We'll try and get through as many of them as possible today and tomorrow. The guests on this morning's show, initially we have with us Icarus Wong. Icarus Wong is a member of Civil Human Rights Observer. And we also have Ines Tang. Ines Tang is chair of Politi HK's Social Strategic. It's a group advocating social stability. Mr. Tang also appeared as an organizer on a recent rally to support the police. And we also have William Miller. William Miller is a practicing solicitor and member of Hong Kong Legal Exchange Foundation. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Ines Tang, good morning. Yes, good morning. Good morning. Now, you've been a very vocal supporter of police actions, haven't you? As I mentioned, you participate in this rally in support of police action. How do you assess the mood among the police at the moment?
Well, I think the actions used by police on Sunday was appropriate. So that's what we love to see, because we don't like chaos on the street. So I think they're doing their job well.
Well, how about the journalists who are being pushed back by the police, who are just trying to do their job? You think that that's appropriate?
Well, I think in case of in this such big chaos, you can really hard to identify who is the journalist, who is the protester. So I guess
the pictures I've seen, I mean, the journalists they wear fluorescent vests that say press, PRESS on the back. I would have thought that's fairly easy to identify.
Yes, I believe the police should assist the press to report the situations. But in some cases, when there is chaos, I guess the order of the society is the first thing to consider.
Now, I'm sure you're aware of this picture that's been widely circulated of one of the police officers during the Mong Kok operation wearing a T-shirt, no police uniform, and certainly no warrant card, a T-shirt and a police helmet. And then, of course, when he was challenged by his warrant card, shouting back at the crowd that he doesn't need to carry a warrant card. Do you have any concerns about that kind of behaviour, or you think that that's the sort of thing that happens in a situation?
I think it's only individual case. Sometimes when police carry their duties, they may not have the chance to carry a badge. Just take an example. So the SDU, when they're doing their duties, they don't have the tag or the ID on their shoulder.
But presumably, if they're going into a situation like where they're enforcing the law, they would have their badges with them.
Well, I don't think it's a necessary reason. As long as
like
you know
that
they're police.
Sorry, Ines Tang.
To control the situation is the most number one priority for police to consider.
Okay, we have several guests this morning. Let us now also bring in Icarus Wong. Icarus Wong, a member of Civil Rights Observer. Good morning, Icarus Wong.
Good morning.
Okay, would you like to respond? Particularly, we've been started by talking about the issue of the police behaviour in the clearance of Mong Kok. Would you like to respond on those points?
Yes, because I think the police general order have a clear provision to mention that a plainclothes officer, when he is exercising his duty, this is his duty to display his warrant card and to make themselves identify to the public, to any member of public to identify himself as a police officer. So when a plainclothes officer, he is wearing some anti-riot gear, put on the shoes and also the helmet, he has the responsibility to display his warrant card. But at the same time, we see that he refused to do so, and that he don't have the duty to display his warrant card. And I think he is a misconduct, and also give a very bad impression to the member of the public that the police, they have refused to be monitored by the public in the exercising his police power.
Wouldn't that be a concern for the police? I mean, it's not that hard to get your hands on a replica police helmet. Wouldn't they be concerned that maybe, the policemen don't know all of the other policemen by face? There's thousands and thousands of them. I mean, if you're not wearing a warrant card or presenting some kind of ID, couldn't you just walk in with a helmet, pick up a baton, and start whacking people?
I think I don't see any difficulties for the police to display his warrant card. Yeah. And this is the requirement of the police general order. This is the order. Our police is a discipline force. They should follow the orders. This is the police general order that are available on the police website that present that plainclothes officer, they have to display his warrant card in the exercising of police power. And we can see that because we have sent observers to monitor and record the demonstrations on Sunday, and we can see that there are many disputes and confrontation between the demonstrator and also the police officer, because the issues of whether they should display whether the plainclothes officer they should display the warrant card.
Are there any penalties for not showing your warrant card or for not wearing your identity badge? Are there any penalties, and are they enforced?
The police they may subject to some disciplinary actions because they violate the police general order. But it is important to have a wake up or have a complaint to file a complaint at the capital. But this issue have repeatedly happened in the past, and we don't see any improvement. And this caused many unnecessary dispute and competition between the police and the citizens. I don't see any difficulties why. I don't see any reason why the police, the management, they to improve these issues to avoid any confrontation between the police and the demonstrator, because it's very easy to display for the police to display their warrant cards in there. For example, they have the jacket vest for them to. There is a place for them to display the warrant cards, but many police refuse to do so, and I don't see any reasonable excuse for this.
Okay, we're discussing the role of the police in Hong Kong's recent turmoil. As we've been talking about the police operation to clear Mong Kok on Sunday night, but we'll also be broadening out the discussion to talk about the police role in other recent events. If you have any thoughts, do email us at backchat@rthk.hk. That's backchat@rthk.hk. Before we go any further, let me bring in an email that's come in from a retired police officer. The retired police officer saying, after the suppression of the 1967 leftist insurgency, in which 10 police officers lost their lives, and the later suppression of syndicated corruption by the police in 1980, and initially in the police by 1980, initially by the police and later by the ICAC, the general public held the police in very high regard. All this changed in 2014 and has worsened in 2019. Why? And then the retired officer suggesting some answers. The police are stuck in the middle of massive political mishandling, not of their making. The Commissioner is, by virtue of the Police Force Ordinance, subject to the orders and directions of the Chief Executive. Secondly, the police have, for some unknown reason, adopted hand-to-hand combat gear and tactics, which gives them an aggressive Orwellian appearance and results in casualties to both sides. Thirdly, the police insist on hiding behind metal barriers, which can be dismantled and thrown at them. And fourthly, the police are only now learning that a disciplined line of ordinary policemen and women, led by a senior officer, prepared to verbally engage with a crowd of protesters, can maintain order. Thank you very much for that email from a retired police officer. We also have with us on the line another retired police officer, Jeffrey Herbert. Jeffrey Herbert is now Chief Executive Director of Sentinel and former Superintendent of the Hong Kong Police Force. Jeffrey Herbert, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yes. Now, you just heard one of your former colleagues who had emailed us with some comments on police handling of the recent events in Hong Kong. Do you share the same view, or is your take rather different on this?
Yes, I think he's fairly well spot on there with what he said. It's very sad. The police are definitely between a rock and a hard place, and it's a situation of damned if they do and damned if they don't, you know. So, yes, it's not a situation that any policeman likes to find himself in, and during civil disturbances, there are no heroes. It's not good for either side, you know.
I know you're no longer in the police. You've been out of the police for quite a while, but how would you assess the mood within the force, from what you know and just from reading about things, any contacts you have? How would you assess the mood within the force at the moment?
I think there's a lot of despondency at the moment. Morale can go up and down at a drop of a pin. I mean, but the boys, you know, they don't want to be seen in bad light by the public, but they don't want to see a breach of law and order either. They're concerned about their families. They're also part of the public, and during this particular incident, some of their quarters have come under surveillance by the public, and it's causing concerns.
Yeah, I mean, there have been clashes between doctors and nurses at hospitals. This has spilled out from the actual action itself into broader parts of society, which I don't think has ever happened before.
No, well, before we had the quarters of the junior officers under protection. We had machine gun turrets around them in '67, and this has all been done away with now. We've very much become part of the public, and therefore the members of the force and their families are more likely to come into contact, as it were, with elements that aren't favourable to them.
How about sorry, go on.
No, go on.
Your former colleague's criticism of the police tactics, saying police have, for some unknown reason, adopted hand-to-hand combat gear and tactics, gives an aggression or Orwellian appearance, and also on insisting on hiding behind metal barriers. Would you share those concerns?
Well, with big, large open spaces now in Hong Kong, which we don't have enough policemen to cover, so you need the metal barriers. But the big problem with the metal barriers are they're not very mobile, and we depend on contractors to put them in place and take them away, and contractors won't work during times of disturbances, of course. We've lost all the government workmen that used to do this sort of role. But tactics have changed. The idea is, with police tactical unit, is that you disperse the crowd. And at the moment, we seem to have been longing to get them back into Mexico, and that isn't the idea of how the police tactical unit should be used. It's meant to sweep down, leaving an open avenue at one end to disperse the crowd. And the close combat stuff, yes, it does seem that we're taking casualties unnecessary by coming into contact with the rioters, the disturbance makers, as it were.
Is Hong Kong, is there a little bit of a different attitude around this? I mean, when we had the June 12th thing, a lot of older people were concerned about the tear gas being unleashed on the kids and all that. Are we a little bit soft now? I mean, like to people that were around in 1967, where policemen were literally getting killed. I mean, has Hong Kong gone a little soft, or does it seem a little?
Well, it does seem the force has softened down a lot. The use of the tear gas, I think, has got to be looked at. It doesn't seem to be having the results that it should be having. Maybe in the towns with the high-rise buildings now, it's been sort of chimneyed up rather than being contained in the areas that it once was. But I think that the force has got to take a more aggressive stance against this element that are out there to try and to create anarchy. I mean,
does that mean rubber bullets and beanbag shots? I mean, of course, that's the police's argument why they used rubber bullets and beanbag shots. They said because the tear gas was ineffective.
Well, again, I mean, even that, the rubber bullets and the beanbags didn't seem to work very well either, did they? I think as a result of this, I think support wing and the commissioner has got to sit back and have a rethink of its tactics of dealing with modern crowds in a city such as Hong Kong. And there are difficulties that we didn't face in the old streets of Mongkok, in the old days. So, perhaps new tactics are needed, and a new look is needed at PTU. And tactics used by the police tactical unit.
Okay, stay with us. We're also joined by William Miller. William Miller, excuse me, is a practicing solicitor and member of the Hong Kong Legal Exchange Foundation. Good morning.
Sure, William Miller. I hope you've been keeping up with us in the conversation thus far. From the Legal Exchange Foundation, what part of this puzzle are you looking at? What are you particularly focused on?
Well, effectively, I'm just looking at it from the rule of law aspect, which is what Hong Kong is well known for, and I certainly hope that stays that way. I think that the other aspect is clearly you have two opposing sides that are very politically entrenched, and as Jeffrey was mentioned just earlier, the police are in a rock and a hard place. No matter what they do, they will never be able to appease whichever side that you're looking at. And their job, effectively, is to uphold the law and to ensure that the streets are safe. Now, in the current situation, we're talking of special times, and where we have the incidents that have happened with a large number of people, and not only what we would talk about with peaceful protests, we also have the sort of hardline protesters that also came to the front. And I do agree, again, with Jeffrey to some extent, that the tactics and things and the way this has all been handled will have to be looked at. Now, how that gets looked at, again, would be subject to what sort of panel is appointed later to review everything. And everyone, again, right at the start of this program, I think it was Icaris that mentioned the protesters and questioning the police officer without a badge. These things are all amplified through the journalists, and what we need to do is to get to the bottom of that particular story and find out the real situation. Yep. And we have to discern fiction from fact. It's really just one of those things. No matter what is done, no one will be pleased. And from our perspective, I think what we really need to look at is just get things back on track, de-escalate everything, and just look at things from a rational point of view.
Okay, let me bring in a comment from a listener who's just come in, and then perhaps Icarus Wong, you could respond. Jaludin says, it is irresponsible and wrong to portray the political crisis as a conflict between police and protesters. Hong Kongers love and respect the police, and we are shocked by recent confrontations. But this is not the fault of the ordinary policeman. Police are following orders from the politicians. The politicians who are afraid to take responsibility and engage with their opponents. They hide behind the police and then portray the political crisis as a rule of law issue. It is not about law versus anarchy. It's about political failure. Thank you very much, Jaludin. Icarus Wong, you spend a lot of time criticising the actions of police officers. Do you recognise not all police are the same, and that there are many police out there trying to do good? Police officers last night in Yau Tong trying to defend pro-democracy protesters, right, when they came under attack? Icarus Wong?
Yes. I think I agree that the police force, they are in a very difficult situation, that because of these political issues, that the people, they are demanding the government to respond to what they want, and the police being put in the middle between the demonstrator and the government. But the police, they also have the role to do their job, and they have to restrain in the using of force in handling the demonstration. For example, in the Sunday, we can see that the entire demonstration is peaceful, and it's no doubt that people, they are occupy the later role, and but we have to also recognize that the entire demonstration is a peaceful demonstration. But we can see that the police, when they decide to reopen the road to disperse the crowd, they start with using the baton. They're striking baton to dispersing the demonstrator. This force, this level of force is absolutely excessive, and even I think is unlawful. I don't see the reason why the police, they cannot use a lessest level of force using a peaceful way to disperse the demonstrator. For example, giving warning and using they can form a cordon, because the police, we have over 30,000 police officers in Hong Kong. They can form a cordon to push the demonstrator back to the pavement. But we don't see that. We see that at the very beginning, the police, they use anti-violence police, they use baton to striking at the demonstrator to disperse the crowd, which I think is this kind of force is excessive. And I think that's why.
Icarus, are you coming to these ideas from a study of what other police forces are doing around the world, or having communicated with the police about what their tactics are ahead of these situations? What their playbook is, what they've been trained to do, or are people just kind of second guessing it after the fact?
I think when we compare with some international standards, there's a requirement that even a public assembly is a illegal public assembly, but it is a peaceful assembly. The police, they should avoid to use force to disperse the demonstrator.
Okay, let me just interrupt you, because Jeffrey Herbert has to go in a moment. I want to go back to Jeffrey Herbert, former superintendent of the Hong Kong police force. I just wonder, Jeffrey Herbert, when you see these pictures on TV, are there scenes of police actions that give you disquiet? Do you think it's possible some officers have overstepped the mark in all the recent events?
Well, individually tempers get frayed. And on the whole, I think the police have done their duty. They've been restrained. Unfortunately, the situation is really too great for them for their immediate control. Okay, we talked about 30,000 police officers, but that's about 28,000 in the force. But only a fraction of that can be deployed in any one time to deal with a situation like this. And internationally, we're held in high esteem for the way that we've developed PTU, the Police Tactical Unit. And if you actually look at riots in London and France, they're far worse than we're seeing here. And the police action is not as good as we've done. And I think we've got the actual PC and sergeants down there, and the officers that are leading them are trying to do their very best for Hong Kong and for the police force and for the public. And it's just unfortunately that we're now dealing with this very hardcore of people that want to destroy everything that we've built up over the years.
Okay.
The Hong Kong public have built up over the years.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Jeffrey Herbert, who is a former superintendent of the Hong Kong Police Force. And we're saying goodbye to Jeffrey Herbert and William Miller, but Ines Tan and Icarus Wong staying with us, and more guests will be joining us after the news, including another retired senior superintendent from the Hong Kong Police. Do let us know your thoughts, both on the police actions and recent events, and more generally on any other aspect of recent events. You can email us at backchat@rthk.hk. We'll get your emails after the news. Weather forecast: mainly cloudy with a few showers, few thunderstorms in the morning. Maximum temperature will be around 31 degrees. Currently it's 29 degrees. Relative humidity 86%. We'll be back in 3 minutes. In the second half of